Hey everybody, Rob here. It's time for a new pro-revenge story. The story about Karen and Kevin who won a battle and lost the war. Let's jump right in. This story is about 5 years old, and some of it, as you will read in the end, is still rolling. Probably will for a long time. It starts with Mrs. P, a principal, because that's what she is. Mrs. P started as a special needs kids caretaker, studied through the years of work, and graduated a doctorate in special education. After 20 years of experience in this, she was asked by the council of a medium-sized city to open and run a new special needs school in the city. She accepted the offer, and after 4 years, she had a school with 150 kids in it for special education school. That is a huge number. Such schools need way more people than regular school, not just teachers, but also other caretakers, and the job isn't always clean and easy, so naturally, Mrs. P is always looking to hire. Then comes Karen. Karen just finished her college and got a degree in education consulting, top of her class. Her professor was on Mrs. P's school board, and she recommended her with very warm words. Karen was basically hired before she even sent her resume. Karen is married to Kevin, of course, who finished his law studies top 5 in his class and now doing his internship in a big law firm, awaiting his license to practice the law. Basically, their future is laid bright and clear. All they have to do is not F up, on the path to a nice, rich life. Mrs. P accepted Karen to work in the school and announced to her she would start work in August 20th, about a week before the school year starts, as the staff needs to organize the school for the opening of the school year. Karen protests that she is a consultant, not another lowlife that comes to mop the floor. Mrs. P is pissed by this attitude, but Karen is top of her class and supposedly the best in the field. So she just smiles and says, "Staff starts to work on August 20th, your staff too, so be here on that date." Karen isn't happy, but well, that's life. That pre-opening week the staff will never forget. While teachers and nurses and other members all worked together hard to get the school up to shape, including painting the walls, setting equipment, and other chores you don't learn in college, Karen fixed her own room, sat in it all day, and played with her phone. Needless to say, she wasn't very popular among school staff. But time went on, school opened on time, and things started to get into their regular routine. Karen was causing more and more issues. She refused to fill in regular reports about her activities, was not available to meetings with staff and parents, and all in all, was a total entitled Karen. Mrs. P tried to talk to her again and again, to no avail. Eventually, Mrs. P asked the professor, the one who gave Karen her degree, the one who was on the school board, to sit with Karen daily and coach her how to actually work and function in a real school environment, as apparently she didn't learn about that in college. But even that didn't help. Karen was hated by all the school staff, and her work was done poorly and getting worse every week. Mrs. P had a meeting every week with Karen and the professor to discuss her performance and how to do better. Meanwhile, important reports and other documents were not filed, and the care to the children was getting worse every day, until eventually a parent filed a complaint about the poor treatment his child got, and the board became aware of the issues. A meeting was set with the board, Mrs. P and Karen. The professor promised Karen that if she will set order to her paperwork and act respectfully, it will be all right. Karen knew she was on the hook now, but just couldn't stop being a Karen. So the day of the meeting comes, and Karen is a no-show, no call. She just didn't come that day, and the day after, and the week after. Without Karen, the board can only hear what Mrs. P has to say, but they already know it, so the meeting is delayed to a time when Karen will show up. Needless to say, this doesn't help her case at all. Anyway, Mrs. P and the professor try to get Karen on the phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Eventually, Mrs. P has no choice. Karen is a no-show, no-call for over a week. She has to have a really good explanation to not get fired now. She calls Karen and leaves a message in her voicemail. that she hadn't heard from her in over a week. She is very worried, and please be in contact ASAP, as finance wants to cut her pay. Finally, Karen called in. She has been sick the whole time. She will return to work in 2 days. Good. Mrs. P will mark the date and set a meeting with the professor and Karen first thing in the morning. If Karen is sick and has a doctor's note, she will not be fired, but she will get some strong talk about the no-call issue. The day comes. Mrs. P and the professor sit in her office waiting for Karen to come. She didn't come. Mrs. P tries to call her and gets the voicemail again. She is pissed. The professor is pissed. Karen had set a new record in pissing and wasting everybody's time. Karen shows up 2 hours late, and Mrs. P calls her to a meeting immediately before anything else. She calls the professor to come. The professor canceled other plans she had to come in, and the meeting finally starts 3 hours late. Thankfully, Karen had a doctor's note. She is okay on that, but she is going to get the strong words talking now. About 10 minutes into the meeting, Karen burst into tears. The meeting is stopped to cool things down, but not over yet. After a few minutes, everybody comes back into the room, and Karen opens, "I'm still not okay. I still feel sick. I want to go home now." Mrs. P is silent, and the professor comments, "As a board member, I must say, as long as you are sick, your job is safe. But it is your first year. You have not saved anything in sick days or vacation days. You will not be paid for this." Karen just said, "We will see about that," collects her things, and left. Karen is sick for another 2 weeks, and her position is vacant. Mrs. P does what she can to fill the void, as do others, but it's clear a man is missing and the position needs to be filled. Eventually, Mrs. P calls Karen to ask her how she is and when she will be back, when Karen says she can't handle the pressure and wants to quit. Mrs. P is stunned by this. Karen is only in her first year. Quitting in the middle will risk her future, and finding another consultant in the middle of the school year is almost impossible. But she keeps her thoughts to herself and just said she doesn't think it's necessary or wise, just feel better and come back. But Karen doesn't come back, and after 2 more weeks of absence, her husband calls in to ask why no money is paid. He gets the obvious answer: Karen has no right to paid sick leave. He gets angry and promises to check his options, which in lawyers' terms is, "I want to sue you." Now, it's clear that the bridge was burned and Karen will not be back. Mrs. P started looking for replacement, and the options aren't great. Eventually, she convinced a retired consultant to come back from retirement just to save this year. The replacement starts working, but can't get paid. The position is still officially occupied by Karen, who is still on sick leave. Board members are now calling Karen, as it's clear she will not talk to Mrs. P. They ask her to come back, and when she refuses, they ask her to submit her resignation to allow them to keep the school running. Karen claims she is ready to come back only if she will be paid for all her sick leave, but nobody's willing to pay that. The mess is growing bigger and bigger. The parents start to hear rumors, and all over climate is not very good. Until finally Kevin, Karen's husband, calls in and says he wants to sue the school for the payment. He gets to talk to the city lawyers that explain him that Karen cannot sue the school or the city while she is still sick or still registered as an employee. She has to stop one of these conditions. The day after, Karen is at school with a standard resignation letter stating her mental and health issues caused by the toxic environment as her reasons. Finally, after more than 2 months, the position is clear and filled right away. What was just rumors now has become fact. Parents were aware that something went on. Finally, in a group chat of parents with Mrs. P, they ask her what it was all about. Mrs. P replies that Karen has resigned due to her mental issues. Kevin did try to sue the city. It went to mediation before court hearing. The mediator saw the material and strongly advised Kevin to withdraw. Kevin listened, and the whole thing was forgotten for a while. 3 months passed. School was doing okay when an email from Karen landed in Mrs. P's inbox. In short, dry legal language, Karen informed Mrs. P that she knows she was slandering her in public, she has screenshots as evidence that she claimed she had a mental issue. And that is not true at all. Karen demands Mrs. P to apologize in public and clarify that Karen did not have any mental issues and her resignation was due to professional disputes. Mrs. P was shocked. She knew for a fact that Karen was, let's just say, not 100% okay up there, and she had her resignation letter to prove it. Going this way from Karen was beyond stupid. Mrs. P, however, did the right thing and sent the letter to the school board asking them what they think should be done. School board just heard the words legal actions and freaked out. They didn't want any of this. They demanded Mrs. P to just apologize and let all be gone. But Mrs. P was not willing to admit wrongdoing of anything, as she knew she did everything right. The board kept this opinion, claimed Mrs. P is being pointlessly stubborn, and they will not cover any legal matters in that issue, which is against Mrs. P's contract. All legal liability that she has within her work should be covered by her employer. That meant her job was on the line now, and Mrs. P was determined to fight back and win. But without the city resources, fighting a slander lawsuit is expensive, and with her job at risk, it will not be easy. Mrs. P went again to the parents' forum, let them know that she had some personal legal issues, and asked if they know who could help. One of the parents, a lawyer, agreed to help without pay. Note, it is highly unprofessional to ask parents to help in personal issues, but it wasn't really a personal issue, it was the school issue, and that lawyer parent noted that after he was informed the details. The lawyer agreed Karen and Kevin had no ground to sue, but said that if they sent the email, their intention is to sue anyway, and nothing Mrs. P would do would stop them. So it was better if Mrs. P just ignored it and let them dig their own grave. And digging they dug. A week after the first letter, a new letter arrived by regular mail in an envelope. It was printed on Kevin's law firm letter stating that the matter should be resolved by public apology or they will sue. Even the lawyer did not believe someone in a large prestigious law firm is that dumb. But here the letter is to prove it. A trial will take time and will cost money, even if he is doing it for free, not to mention that Mrs. P would be fired no matter the result. They had to find another solution. The lawyer figured out that stupid people need stupid solutions. He thought about it for a while and then remembered he had a classmate in college who went working for that firm. He called that classmate and asked him how he is, now that they are both well after their college years. Apparently, his classmate worked hard and got to become a junior partner in the firm. When the lawyer mentioned the case, his friend was surprised. He hadn't heard about the case, and he should have, as lawyers in large firms gossip like old women, and a slander suit against special education school, it's the most raunchy gossip in town, but also a PR nightmare. He and the other partners would never take a case like this. It will make them look like greedy lawyers who would skin off anybody for a penny. Not good publicity. He promised to look around and check what is going on in the firm. It didn't take him long. The next day he called the lawyer back. He found out no lawyer in the firm was aware of the case. He figured Kevin used the firm paper to send the letter, but no lawyer above him was involved. Good news for our lawyer. Together, they planned the right answer to Kevin and Karen, the answer that will shut them out for good. The lawyer called Mrs. P and told her his plan. It was easy, simple, and malicious. She didn't like it, but agreed to it as it was the best and fastest way to resolve the situation. Next thing, the lawyer drafted his settlement agreement. He called Kevin and asked him if it will do. The agreement stated that Mrs. P will apologize to Karen in the most public way she can, and will post all the legally related papers alongside the apology in the school webpage. The agreement stated that the apology can come in any form, as long as it can be searched in Google search and has a link from the school webpage. It also stated that after the apology, Karen and Kevin will not be able to sue the school ever again, and will have no further demands from Mrs. P or the school ever again. The last clause stated that if any unrelated issues will come of this agreement, Karen and Kevin will be liable for any consequences, and the school can demand any losses it suffers from them. Kevin agreed to all the terms. Within 2 hours, Karen and Kevin signed the agreement, and the next stage was ready to launch. The lawyer came to Mrs. P's office with the equipment he needed and the apology transcript. He set a video camera, and Mrs. P read her apology. She opened with an introduction, who Mrs. P is, and what she had done so far in her career, her degrees and recommendation. She also made an introduction to Karen, her career so far, her degree and recommendation, none so far. And after the introduction, she explained that Karen claims she left the school in the middle of the school year because of professional disagreement, and any other comment Mrs. P or any other have claimed about Karen, health and mental issues is false, and Mrs. P is sorry if Karen or anybody else heard so, and if Karen's feelings were hurt. In essence, anyone who sees the video understands exactly who Karen is, and even if Mrs. P didn't say it in words, it was clear she thought very bad things about Karen. Right after it was finished, the video was uploaded to the school's YouTube channel, and a subsite under the school website was created showing the video and all the related documents, including the threatening letter Kevin sent from his firm paper. A link was sent to Kevin with the short line, "That settles the matter, don't contact us ever again. Karen and Kevin has won the battle." A month passed, and Kevin suddenly got fired from his firm. Apparently, he wasn't in a position to send a letter threatening lawsuit under the firm paper without any higher-up lawyer watching him. Sending it like that for a case he managed himself was plain fraud. He was reported to the bar, but to not let a scandal and the PR disaster come out, he was just let go and no further punishments were taken. The firm sent a letter to the school admitting the fraud and asking the school to remove the threatening letter Kevin sent. The school graciously agreed, and Kevin's letter was removed, but the firm letter admitting Kevin's fraud was published instead. Kevin was done in the business. Any lawyer who he came to look for a job asked him why he left the big firm before he even got past the first stage, and a simple search of his name showed he committed fraud against a special education school from all places. Nobody would hire him. Meanwhile, Karen kept looking for a job in her field. She had to wait until a new school year will begin. Her college professor was not willing to write her any recommendation, and she had to explain the missing year in her resume to any principal. Few school principals heard she worked with Mrs. P and called her to ask about Karen, which Mrs. P only said that due to legal issues, she can't talk about Karen, and it is all explained in the legal section of the school website. That was enough. Any principal who knows Karen sued her foremost school will not dare to hire her. Karen lost that school year, and to support herself began looking for other jobs. She found a job as a secretary in an office that didn't Google search her name and worked there for a couple months, until the manager got bored one day and decided to search Karen's name. She was fired the next day for a minor F-up. It is more than 5 years since it happened. Kevin is a lawyer in a sleazy firm hired mostly by low-life criminals. He loses most of his court cases and known as the low-life lawyer for low-life criminals. Karen is still looking for a job. She can't hold a job for more than 6 months before she gets fired for petty things. They both know very well why they're doing so poorly in life. Kevin sent another threatening letter demanding to remove all mentions of his name and Karen's name from the school website. He also asked to remove the video. The lawyer just told him that it is what they agreed on, and if he wants to renegotiate, he will demand Kevin to pay for damages. He didn't specify what damages, and Kevin didn't ask. He gave up. Karen and Kevin admitted defeat. They lost the war. Mrs. P eventually removed the video from the school site and set it as private on YouTube. But all the legal letters are still posted there, and will be there until, well, maybe forever. I'm left wondering why this went as far as it did, and Karen got away with doing so little. Insubordination, refusing to do required paperwork, parent complaints, No call, no show for weeks, then a contact, and then more of the no call, no show. All of this from a non-tenured employee? She should have been fired a long time ago. I want to thank OP for posting this story to the Pro-Revenge subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.